Today we're going to look at how philosophy serves as a basis for decisions made in developing curriculum. Greek philosophers such as Plato and Aristotle have long speculated about the nature of learning and knowledge. Modern education philosophers such as John Dewey and Paulo Freire have dedicated their life's work to creating an education system that works for all students. So, how do these philosophies affect decisions about school curriculum? Well, a school's philosophy of education really lays the framework for everything they do. It guides them in making decisions about what classes or subjects are important, what materials are best for teaching those subjects, what goals should be in place for students, and what activities will be beneficial in helping students meet those goals. Philosophies can really be broken down into two main categories, traditional and contemporary, or as I like to think of them, old school and new school. In traditional philosophies such as perennialism and essentialism, education is a means of preserving the past. Values are fixed or absolute, and curriculum is composed of reading, writing, and arithmetic, as well as other essential academic subjects. In this philosophy, the teacher is really the authoritarian figure, and there's a huge emphasis on conforming to the norms of society. In contemporary philosophies such as progressivism and reconstructionism, education is all about shaping the future. Values are flexible, and curriculum is composed of the 3 R's as well as creative arts, sciences, and vocational studies. In this model, the teacher is more of the guide on the side, and there is an emphasis on individual growth and development. So the differences in traditional and contemporary philosophies really helps us to understand why schools develop curriculum differently. Oftentimes, schools try and develop an education system based on their own beliefs about learning and knowledge. Philosophy also plays an important role in developing goals and objectives. Curriculum developers must have a clear idea of what they expect students to learn in order to write goals and objectives which match up with their philosophy. When we talk about goals, we're really talking about long-term aims to be achieved, whereas objectives are more short-term. They're specific skills that we want students to learn after each round of instruction. According to the textbook, Contemporary Issues in Curriculum, there are 8 guidelines to take into account when writing goals. First, is the stated educational outcome potentially significant? Second, is the goal a knowledge goal or is it a process goal? 3, is the goal clear and concise? 4, can learning experiences be thought of that would lead to the goal's achievement? 5, do curricular options exist for the goal's achievement? 6, does the goal clearly contribute to the attainment of one or more of the program goals in the subject area? 7, can the goal be identified with the approximate level of student development? And 8, can criteria for evaluating the goal be identified? With schools having a wide variety of philosophies and a varied curriculum, how do we ensure that all students are receiving a quality education? Are there certain decisions about education that should be made at the national level, or should the decisions remain at the state level or at the local level? A common core of standards that applies to all the states is one way that we can ensure that all kids are getting an equal education. But not everyone is thrilled at the idea of the federal government having a role in state-run education. Take a look at this video from the Heritage Foundation. It expresses some of the concerns that citizens have over the government's role in public education.
Casey Brzezicki is a 5th grade teacher from Missouri. She knows firsthand that those closest to the students are best equipped to meet their educational needs. That's why she and allies like Gretchen Logue are fighting to empower parents and taxpayers. They're a part of the latest fight to restore federalism in the face of government overreach in education.
I'm Lindsay Burke, an education policy analyst at the Heritage Foundation. For decades, Republicans and Democrats have centralized control over education. And now bureaucrats in Washington are using federal funds to coerce states to adopt national academic standards and tests. These national standards would dictate what students need to learn and when they should learn it.
There's such a disconnect between Washington, D.C. and our schools at the local level. And it's very sad for me to think that any ounce of local control that we had left because the states pretty much were in control with their standards, and then we follow what they tell us we need to be doing. But now that's even getting farther removed to where, as a parent, if I have a problem with something my child's learning in social studies, I can't go to the school district. I can't even go to the state anymore because it's out of our hands.
Do parents and taxpayers have a right? I think that's a question. Do parents and taxpayers have a right to have a say in what their children are learning? My feeling is, if we're paying for it, you bet we do.
For example, I was teaching a math lesson yesterday on fractions, and within that hour-long math period, I taught it 3 different ways to 3 different groups. So being able to differentiate because the kids are different, and yet we have these standards that are trying to fit everyone into one mold, is pretty much contradictory.
The Obama administration has always said that these standards would be voluntary, but money has always been on the line. But leaders in Virginia, Texas, and South Carolina have continued to oppose further federal overreach into education.
We know what works for our children, and the fact is that Washington's race to the top with their national standards and their national testing, yet to be worked out, of course, we think would be devastating to the young people of the state of Texas. We're making progress in every area.
You know, we have to be careful when we take federal dollars. Every time you take a dollar, you're putting a hand behind your back.
You know, we have to use government in a smart way to make sure that we don't handcuff teachers, principals, superintendents, teachers, or parents into one size fits all, and that's just not the case.
If we had taken the $249 million, would I go to the General Assembly and then ask the General Assembly for more money to meet the federal requirements? No, that is not the Virginia way.
Federalism, allowing states to set education standards and determine how funds are spent, should be a guiding principle in education. Only then will children's needs best be served and educational opportunity will flourish. Congressman Rob Bishop taught high school for nearly 30 years. Today, as a representative from Utah's 1st District and a member of the 10th Amendment Task Force, he champions federalism in education.
Education deals with people. Give people and parents the ability to do what they wish to do and move in the direction they wish to do it. By consolidating power here in Washington, you flat out don't do that. We have, ever since the federal government in the mid-60s became heavily involved in public education, we've been consistently fighting that battle over standardization versus freedom. Freedom should be our goal.
One obstacle with state-set standards is that many states have not adopted rigorous enough standards to adequately prepare students for post-secondary education. Take Tennessee, for instance. In a 2005 report, it was reported that 87% of 4th graders in Tennessee had passed the state test in mathematics, when those same students were given the National Assessment of Educational Progress test. Only 28% were found to be proficient on a national level. More and more states are moving towards Common Core standards. Currently, 46 states and Washington, D.C. have adopted the standards. These standards are designed around the goal of college and career readiness for all students. Post-secondary education is more important now than ever. Statistics show that an estimated 62% of jobs in 2018 will require education beyond high school, compared to just 28% of jobs in 1973. Experts widely agree that most states are not adequately preparing students for post-secondary education. As a result, the number of students earning bachelor's degrees is not rising fast enough to meet job demands. In 2011, the U.S. ranked 15th among 20 major industrialized countries in the number of adults aged 25 to 34 with bachelor's degrees. So is Common Core the answer? Well, the verdict's really still out about the success of Common Core standards. But what experts do generally believe is that the Common Core standards reflect the knowledge and skills that students need to succeed at the college level. So philosophy really plays an important role in the decisions we make in curriculum. However, recent data trends have suggested that current curriculum is not preparing our students for life after high school. It is important that curriculum continues to evolve as education evolves. If we want students to be well prepared for post-secondary education, it is important that we set goals high and expect students to meet them.